Hey, I'm Pastor Rod. Thanks for joining us today. I hope this message makes a difference for you. As we continue our study of the Lord's Prayer, I want to teach you a leadership principle called norming. Here's how it works. If you want people to accept something, present it and treat it as normal. Make it something a lot of people or everyone does. And in that way, you can norm a behavior. What was once exceptional becomes expected. And norming a behavior can be a wonderful thing. For instance, we have normed parking far away from the building. And here's how we started. Right after becoming pastor, I painted over the reserved parking spaces for me and the staff. And before I say a word to anyone, I started parking in the furthest space in the furthest lot. And then every time we opened a new lot, I picked the new worst space. Didn't say anything about it, but other leaders noticed and started parking with me. Then the choir and orchestra joined us. And before long, so many people were doing it, it became the new normal to park far away and leave the close spot for guests. I'll give you a few other examples. I serve in reality on Wednesday nights because I want to norm cross-generational relationships. I want it to be normal behavior for our best leaders to strategically and intentionally invest in the next generation and celebrate recovery. When someone gets up to talk, they always start something like this. Hi, I'm Josh. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, overcoming codependency. They do that to send a message that it's okay to admit your hurts, your habits, and your hang-ups. They norm asking for help. Share your lunch takes away the stigma of needing help. It is normal behavior at First NLR to bring groceries to church, to share, and then to celebrate when others take that food. Generously giving to missions is normal at our church. That's unusual, but it's become the norm here. That's just what we do. Early on, we celebrated diversity very intentionally, knowing that God wanted that to be the new normal in His church. Now, attending church with people who are different from you is normal. And it would be weird to go somewhere where everybody was the same. Just wouldn't feel right. With the Every Soul Matters to God cards and videos, we are trying to norm inviting people to church and sharing your faith. In fact, here's the latest video. Watch.
I've got a whole bunch of grown-ups. They're like family. They're always happy to see me, and they tell me I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am strong, courageous, mighty. They say God has a plan for me, and it's good. They're not babysitting over here. What? I ain't no baby. They give me the chance to serve in ministry and develop the gifts God gave me. I get to worship and pray, and I'm making a lot of friends too. My leaders know that following Jesus as a family is important. So every weekend in the backyard preschool, high voltage kids ministry, and even in big church, we're all learning the same thing. Sometimes I like to quiz my parents to make sure they got it. Every time I'm with them, these grown-ups make sure I know I matter because every soul matters to God.
Isn't that great? Peyton did awesome on that. So please go to our church Facebook page. Share that on your social media. I want it to be normal to invite people to church. Jesus normed daily prayer for His disciples by modeling it. They watched Jesus day after day in good times and in difficult times, withdrawing to spend time alone with God. Jesus normed daily prayer so effectively that finally His disciples came to Him and said, Lord, teach us to pray. And in response, Jesus taught them. His prayer is found in Matthew 6. We are memorizing it as a prayer guide. So I'm going to put it on the screens. Let's say it together. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Okay, quick review. Our Father which art in heaven. Begin your prayer time, your time with God, by thanking Him for who He is, what He's done, for His blessings in your life. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Pray for God's will to be done in your life, in your family's life, in our church. Pray that God will help you to hear His voice and do His will. Pray that you will be obedient to His plan. Give us this day our daily bread. Present your needs to God. Pray for others. If you keep a list of prayer requests, this is where you pray them. If you don't, pray as things come to your mind. We serve a God who supplies our needs on a daily basis. So pray that God will give you the strength and the mercy and the peace and the grace that you need to make it through this day. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Ask God to forgive you for actions, words, attitudes, and sins that are displeasing to Him. And to ask God to help you forgive others. Remember, the way or the manner in which we forgive others is the way God will forgive you. So I pray this prayer often the same way I'm teaching you. One of my goals in this series is to norm prayer. I want you to consider it normal to spend time with God every day, not something that's reserved for the super spiritual. So now we come to the next line in the prayer. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We are surrounded by temptation all day, every day. It's often overwhelming. There is a constant pull to do wrong. In fact, in some instances, it seems doing wrong is becoming normal. You almost feel abnormal if you do right. That's one of Satan's most subtle tools. He wants to norm sin. His goal is to convince individuals, even the church, if enough people are doing it, we can't call it wrong. It's just the new normal. Times have changed. Behavior and actions that used to be considered sin are now commonly accepted. Think about it. Society has radically changed in their attitude towards homosexuality. There's been a dramatic shift in American society in the last 10 years. Alcohol abuse. Some of you can think back and remember when beer ads weren't even allowed on television. Drug use. The legalization of marijuana is a classic example of norming. Profanity and sex on television. We are a long way from Andy Griffith, Father Knows Best, and the Brady Bunch, aren't we? I remember growing up, Saturday nights, The Love Boat was on. And I so much wanted to watch The Love Boat. But my mom and dad wouldn't let me because it hinted that people were sleeping together who weren't married. It never showed that. You just saw them going in and a door closing. It's no longer a hint, is it? Living together before marriage went from being shameful to where it's now increasingly seen as acceptable, even wise, to see if you can peacefully coexist. Nudity and violence in movies and on TV. What used to earn an X rating now only earns an R. What used to earn an R now earns a rating we didn't even have when I grew up, PG-13. We very slowly allow more and more of it into our homes. And what we used to violently object to, we now allow. It's become normal. Pornography has moved from a secret habit to a multi-billion-dollar industry with award shows and conventions. 20 years ago, you sent your kids to bed at a certain time, and you didn't think anything about taking a book from them if they were caught reading after lights out. Now, you send them to their room for hours of unmonitored time watching Netflix and roaming the dark recesses of the internet on their devices. Church attendance used to be the norm. People routinely gave God and church multiple time slots a week. Now it's normal to choose ball games instead of church. 50 years ago, marriage was forever. That was almost non-negotiable, and that's changed dramatically. Now, if all of those changes happened suddenly, there would be a huge outcry. But slowly, gradually, incrementally normal shifts. You can only see how far we've come or how far we've fallen by looking way back. That's not only true in society, it's also true in church. Some things that would never have been accepted in the past are now seen as normal. It didn't happen overnight in church either. It was slow, it was gradual, it was incremental. No one would let it happen overnight. And today the church looks too much like the world. Now, I'm not talking about style or dress or kind of music you prefer. That's all the stuff that doesn't matter. If you don't think style should change, then really we need to go back to wearing what Jesus wore. Because you can't pick one time in history and say that time is right. I'm not talking about style or preferences. I'm talking about sinful habits and behaviors we used to reject, and now all too often we accept because everybody's doing it. Unfortunately, we're becoming accustomed to a new normal. Jesus prayed and taught us to pray, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We have a tendency to think temptation is a new thing. That in Jesus' day, there was no evil. That's not true. When this prayer was first taught, prostitution was rampant. Tax collectors were officially licensed cheats who stole from the rich and the poor. Political enemies were crucified. Sin and temptation has always been present. But for many generations, it was kept under wraps. People struggled in secret, convinced they were the only ones. Now so many people openly do the same thing that people have decided they no longer have to keep it hidden, and it's not wrong. It's open, it's public, it's in your face. Men, that's why I want you to attend the group with Pastor Brian on Wednesday nights in August, Surfing with God. We have got to learn the right way to deal with temptation. We cannot allow society to dictate new normal behavior that's dangerous and deceptive. All of you should have been like, gosh, right, those are too late now. Don't do it. In other parts of the world, it's even worse than in America. There are countries I won't open a newspaper because I know there will be nude pictures. I won't turn on the TV in a hotel room because I don't know what channel will be showing pornography. We live in a world that's openly sinful and becoming more. That's why Jesus taught us to pray, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And with that simple prayer, Jesus reminds us temptation is everywhere and we're all vulnerable. Erwin Lutzer got it right when he said, temptation is not a sin, it's a call to battle. Temptation is a battle because sin is more than a choice, it's a power. God told Cain, Genesis 4:7, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must master it. Isn't that a word picture? Picture sin crouching at the door of your heart, ready to pounce. What does it mean to pray, lead us not into temptation? Does that mean God intentionally tempts you unless you ask him not to? Is Jesus telling you to pray, Lord, don't set me up to be ruined? No, James 1:13 says, when tempted, no one should say, God is tempting me. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he tempt anyone. Lead us not into temptation is a prayer that acknowledges your weakness in the face of temptation and your need for God's help. When you get to this place, pray that the Holy Spirit will help you resist evil, be free from sinful habits. Pray for strength to make the right choices. When I reach this point in my prayer time, here's what I pray. I pray, Lord, help me be wise in the face of temptation. Help me recognize temptation for what it is and not to be drawn in or trapped by Satan's schemes. Lead me on a path, Lord, where I'm surrounded by your protection. Help me resist the pull to do wrong. I don't want to give in and live according to society's new normal. I want to live according to your words and your standards. Strengthen me so I won't fail. Help me overcome temptation. Pray this over your children. Pray this over your grandchildren. Beginning when my boys were young, I prayed this prayer for my boys every day. I prayed they would be strong in the face of temptation, that they would live a pure, holy life. I especially prayed for my boys in the areas of sex and pornography and dating, because those are areas where young men are particularly vulnerable to temptation. I prayed, lead them not into temptation, Lord. Deliver them from evil. Help them recognize the truth behind the temptation and see through Satan's lies. A mouse gets caught in a mouse trap because instead of seeing the trap, it sees the cheese. It looks good. It looks tasty. It looks free without consequences. If the mouse saw the truth, the trap would fail. There is no way the mouse would take the cheese if he knew one piece of cheese would cost him his life. He would not sacrifice his life for a bite of food. There is no way a married man would have an affair if he could see in advance the pain it would cause, what it would do to his wife and children. If he could see the trap, he would run from the temptation. Satan never shows you the trap. He only shows you the bait. Think about it. There's no way you would take the first drink if you saw the trap on the other side. If you saw yourself as an alcoholic, controlled by the bottle, needing a drink every night, wasting your money, your relationships, and your future, all in the pursuit of one more drink, you would run from that bottle. If a student could see the guilt and the shame and the hurt and pain that comes from giving herself away sexually, she would never make that mistake. God doesn't show you Satan doesn't show you the trap. He's wise. He's crafty. Sin is crouching at the door, and it desires to master you. I pray that God will make you wise, that you will see past the bait, that you will see the truth behind the trap, and you'll resist temptation. You know what I do when I like to walk and pray? And at least once a month, I pause at this point of the prayer, and I pray all the way through the cost of failure. I make a mental picture of me messing up, and everyone knows it. I think how it would hurt my family, how it would hurt our church, how it would affect my friends who don't know Jesus, how it would affect people who I've led to Jesus, people who trust my leadership. I pray all the way through it. It's remarkably depressing. You say, Pastor Rod, if it's depressing, why would you pray that? Well, I want to make sure I'm wise to the trap of sin. I ask God not to let me forget the cost of failure. I pray for purity in thought, in word, in action. I pray, Lord, give me the strength to resist temptation and to do right regardless of the world around me. That's the first part of the prayer. Lead us not into temptation. The second part is, but deliver us from evil. And this is the part of the prayer where I pray protection for me, for my family, and for you. I pray, God, I know you have a plan for my life. I also know Satan has a strategy to destroy me. Keep me safe from the plans of the enemy. Hold me, keep me safe in your hands. I pray for Cindy and Tyler and Emily and Evie and Parker and Meredith and coming soon, Maverick. Not a great name for a kid, Maverick. There is no surprise that Tyler would name his kid after his favorite basketball team, if you know Tyler. But I pray for them. I pray that God will keep them safe at work. I pray that God will keep them safe as they drive, as they travel. I pray that no strategy of the enemy will succeed against them, but God will supernaturally watch over and protect them. I'm old school. I plead the blood of Jesus. I pray that God will protect them from sickness and from disease and from accidents and attacks. I pray that God will protect them from evil people and from the evil one. We've had our challenges, but the Lord has delivered us from them all. I pray for God's divine protection against strategies of Satan. I pray his strength will be their strength for that day. I pray against enemies. I pray against attacks. You should be praying this over your kids and students every day before they walk out the door, because our world wants to destroy them and Satan wants to trap them. And we got to fight against that. There's a lot of evil in our world. I spent time last week with the General Superintendent of Burkina Faso, a West African country. He leads all our Assemblies of God churches there. Pastors and believers in Burkina Faso have faced horrible persecution the last few months. Whole churches gunned down during church services. Churches burned. Pastors killed. The stories are horrific. While we were together, Pastor Michel received a message on his cell phone. And when he opened it up, it was a video of one of our believers being beheaded for following Jesus. They forced him to dig his own grave, and as he knelt in his grave, they hacked his head off with a machete. It is the worst thing I've ever seen. Pastor Michel told us, I haven't had an uninterrupted night's sleep for 2 months. He said it every night, at least once a night, I get a phone call that another pastor or believer has been killed, or that another pastor is fleeing for his life. We prayed for Pastor Michel and for our churches in Burkina Faso that God would deliver them from evil. There's horrible evil in our world. And you could listen to that and say, Rod, the prayer isn't working. Evil's on the increase. God's side seems to be losing. Let me remind you, the God you serve is greater than the evil that tries to destroy you. A couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago, Scott and Karen Hansen were in kids' church and talked to our children. I want to share with you the video they showed. Watch.
You know, living in Africa these past 25 years, we have seen how important prayers are in our lives, protecting our family, protecting us from evil. Yeah. And that reminds me of the story when we were at the beach with Megan.
Oh yeah, Megan was only about 11 months old. Yeah. She started walking early. I remember I was sitting down in the sand and I had one of those old clunky video cameras, and she was real close to me, and so I had it up to my eye so I couldn't see real well, but I could watch as she bent down and she picked up this stick and she started playing with this stick, only it wasn't a stick. Beggs was with us at the time and he shouted, "Snake!" And I looked down, and to my horror, here's Megan holding a snake in her hand. So I slapped her hand, it fell to the ground, and we killed it and found out that it was a burrowing asp. And if she would have been bitten by it, she would have died. And in the video, it's kind of crazy. You can see the snake strike at her and miss her. And I just know at that time, there must have been people praying for God's protection over us.
Yeah, Jesus taught us to pray, deliver us from evil, and prayers are critical for life and ministry in Africa.
Absolutely. We couldn't do missions without people praying.
Yeah.
Satan has a strategy. God has a plan. In the same way God protected that little baby from that snake, I pray that God will protect you and he'll keep you from harm. At this part of the prayer, I also pray for the ultimate deliverance from evil. And I pray, Lord, I'm looking forward to your return, to the day when you come back and deliver us from this evil for all eternity. I want to be ready. Lord, if today's the day that you want to come and take us home, I'm good. Lord, deliver us from evil. If you want to take us out of this evil, wicked place, I'm ready. Let's go. Psalms 34:19 says, a righteous man may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them. What's that last word? All. What's that word again? All. A righteous man may have many troubles, but you have a promise. The Lord delivers him from them all. 2 months ago, People in Songs, their group we had last year, worship leaders that I love, and they released a new song. Title of it is Hell or High Water. And when at first I saw the title, I wasn't sure, because when I was a kid, you couldn't even use the word hell when you were talking about hell. I mean, you just didn't. But then the more I thought about it, the more appropriate it seemed. Sometimes the attack feels sudden and strong, like all hell is fighting against you. Have you been there? Other times the pressure is steady and increasing, like high water. We know about high water around here in central Arkansas. When the water starts to rise, it seems like there's nothing to hold it back. And when it recedes, it affects everything. But regardless of the enemy's attack, come hell or high water, you have a promise. God said, Isaiah 43, fear not, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name, and you are mine. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. When you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze, for I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. God will deliver you from evil. I want you to listen to the chorus, the words of this song. Here's the chorus. So come hell or high water, you're still on the throne. You are faithful and able. You're in control. There's no question about it. You're king over all, and I know who you are. Listen to me. You might be fighting hell itself. God is still on the throne. He is faithful. He is able. He is still in control. And because he is, you can pray with confidence, deliver me from evil.